Hey everybody, welcome to Bright Earth Yoga. My name is Hannah and today we have a special little tutorial on how to turn any yoga class into a bump-friendly yoga class. So welcome my pregnant friends. If you're like me, you might not really want to go to prenatal yoga classes. Maybe you already had a yoga practice and going to a prenatal yoga class doesn't appeal to you, or maybe they're not available where you are. And it would be really convenient if you could just go to normal yoga classes, which is what I did during my whole first pregnancy. I went to just regular yoga classes at a studio, and I learned. I didn't have anyone really teaching me how to do it, but I learned through trial and error how to modify those classes to meet my own needs. And it's really useful the second time around when, you know, I have this home practice, and sometimes I like to practice along with YouTube videos, and I know how to modify those because there's a lot that's really uncomfortable or hard to do or just impossible when you're really big. Early on in your pregnancy, it might be easier to just fly through everything in a class like as usual. But as you get bigger and bigger, it becomes harder and harder to do certain things. On your belly is an obvious example, like especially starting in your second trimester, moving on your belly can start to feel really uncomfortable, and you're eventually going to have to move off of your belly. Closed twists. So whenever we're like twisting towards the leg, you lose the space for that. You don't have it anymore. Forward folds. Anything with the legs close together, where the legs are supposed to be stacked under the hips, can be really challenging. Vinyasas can be challenging. At this point, I'm so big, when I lower through chaturanga, my belly is scraping the floor. It's really uncomfortable, and you're just heavier and heavier, so those vinyasas might be hard to do, and you might look for something to replace them. And finally, things on your back. So after a while in pregnancy, around your second trimester time, you might start feeling really uncomfortable on your back. And even if you don't feel uncomfortable on your back, it is advisable not to be lying on your back for extended periods of time, because this compresses I don't know how to pronounce it, y'all, vena cava. But basically, it's bad for your blood circulation and can make you feel really ill and dizzy. So there are alternatives for all of these things. And we'll start with alternatives for poses on the belly. So Sphinx Pose, all those sorts of things. Cobra Pose. Sometimes there's a lot of stuff on your belly in a class. And anytime that the whole class is going down on their belly, you can just stay in tabletop. Maybe work your way through some cats and cows. You can practice Spinal Balance, which I will show you in case you don't know it, or if you know it by another name. So come to tabletop, lift one leg out behind you, lift the opposite arm out in front of you. And this is really great. I actually find this really relieving for some of the low back pain that I experienced during pregnancy, because this is strengthening the core, especially these muscles along the spine. And it also strengthens the glutes. Getting real personal there. Strengthens the glutes, which is really important for easing back pain, is building strength in those areas of the body. So you're not dumping in the spine and letting it sag down, but even with your belly, you're managing to pull everything up. So you've got this nice strong line running all the way from your fingertips back to, I've got my foot flexed, so back to my heel, which is pressing back. Good. So that's Spinal Balance. And then the other option, an alternative for lying on your belly, would be side lying. And I'll show you this too, just so hopefully it'll make a little more sense. So there are poses like half frog or bow, when you're doing kind of a quad stretch on your belly. So instead, and I'll turn my back to you so you can see it a little more clearly, you come down on your side, and if it's comfortable, prop up your head. And it's basically the same thing. So for half frog, you reach back and find that quad stretch. Or half bow, you're reaching back and same sort of thing, quad stretch. Now this bottom leg I've got bent because I feel a little unstable and I don't want to be rolling to one side or the other. So use that bottom leg to stabilize yourself there. So those are some things you can do instead of poses on your belly. Twists. Next up is twists. Like I said, twists can be really hard because you simply don't have the space for them. So let's take low lunge as an example. You don't have to be trying these things as I do them. You can just watch, maybe try them on your own later. All right, so a low lunge twist. If we were gonna go into it like a grounded low lunge and then try to twist towards that leg, I can kind of do it. Like, it's not really awful or anything, but after a certain point, you might want to start opening up that twist, just kind of twisting in the opposite direction from everyone else. That way it just gives you a lot more space to work with, and you're still working a twist in there. Another alternative, and I'll show you with the other leg here. If you're in a low lunge, this can feel really nice. It does for me. When I'm pregnant, is when everybody's twisting towards this front leg here, I twist the same direction as everybody else, a nice closed twist, but I kind of rock this leg out a little bit and work in a hip stretch. So this creates a lot of space for baby and gives me a hip stretch. Isn't that nice? So there's that. And that twist is a little easier for me, but like in a seated twist like this, I really have nowhere to go. I can't breathe. So I'm going to twist like this, a nice open twist away from my leg here. Ooh, all right. Moving on, forward folds. And anything where your legs have you have your feet stacked, ankles, knees, under your hips like this. You're going to want to move your stance a little wider. So when you're forward folding, you just don't have any space to move into that forward fold. Like I'll show you seated here. There's nowhere to go. So I'm going to take my legs nice and wide. Oh, there we go. My belly fits right in that space, and that's nice. And the same is true for any other pose that you just don't have space for. Try taking your legs wider. So for downward facing dog, you can have more of a wide-legged downward facing dog. Chair pose, legs can be much wider, especially I would say for some of the standing poses like warrior one. Definitely make a lot of space for yourself in that pose. Even when I'm not pregnant, I make a lot of space for my hips in warrior one. And pyramid pose, you're folding, take your legs wider, it's fine. Next up is Vinyasas. So not every vinyasa has to be plank, low plank, chaturanga, up dog, down dog. That's what you'll hear in like a vinyasa flow class. It's like, take a vinyasa, and everybody does this motion, this traditional motion. But vinyasa is just, it's like, it's flowing, it's moving from one place to another. So you can do cats, cows. Cats and cows are a vinyasa. You can also just hold plank and build strength in your body by holding that plank. And another alternative, if you need rest, instead of taking a vinyasa, you can move into downward facing dog or even child's pose. And that is true for anyone, not just for pregnant people, to take a moment of rest, find a child's or down dog. Finally, we have poses that are done on your back. So starting in the second trimester, you will probably feel uncomfortable lying on your back for any amount of time. this makes Shavasana not as yummy as it normally is, and you are welcome to take a sideline Shavasana. And if you're gonna do that, you can lie on either side, I think, but for optimal blood flow, you lie on your left side. You want to create a little bit of cushion for your head, so maybe a blanket or your arm underneath your head if that feels comfortable. And then you want to put something between your legs, preferably all the way down to your feet so that your legs are stacked. Or you can have one leg out in front with a bolster or a pillow if you're at home underneath that leg, so that your body has this chance to find a little R&R and you're nice and comfortable. There's that, or you could build like a little prop bridge behind you, like a little recliner with a bunch of pillows, and lie back like this at an angle. So those are some options for Shavasana. And apart from that, I mean, there are other poses besides Shavasana that we'll do on our back. So like we'll do a reclining pigeon. This is where I think you have to get really creative, especially because some classes you spend a lot of time on your back doing a lot of things. You can come up with different versions of those poses that are seated. So for pigeon, a reclined pigeon, you can be upright and find a little figure 4, like so. Same sort of hip stretch happening here. For Supta Baddha Konasana, you're traditionally lying on your back. You can either prop yourself up, build a little prop recliner for yourself, or you can just sit upright and take Baddha Konasana. I mean, get really creative. For when you're lying on your back doing a twist, just do a seated twist, an open seated twist. Even for something like Happy Baby, which I've never seen this done in a class, not on your back, but Happy Baby is a pose on your back. You can just come to a seat, grab your toes like this, find a little forward fold, and you're creating the same sort of shape, the same sort of asana, but in an upright position. That about sums it up for alternative poses. But one other note before we go on props. I know people don't always like to use props, and that's fine. It's an investment, especially if you just have a home practice, or don't want to make that sort of financial commitment yet. If you are pregnant, props can be more helpful. They are more important for you in helping to make you comfortable or create space in your body, and you don't have to go out and buy a whole bunch of new expensive fancy yoga props from yoga brands. You can use things that you find around your house, blankets, pillows, just whatever you can grab, and have those things by your mat before you get started, just in case you want to use them during class. So that about sums it up. I hope that you enjoyed today's tutorial and that you find it helpful and are able to use it to practice any class on YouTube or in a studio. Turn those classes into your own bum-friendly class. I'll see you next time. Namaste.